we're at an interesting time with AI and agents, and it's like everybody's going back to becoming a builder now, right? And that's going to be really important in how we build in the future. And I think that's what we're doing at Upwind is like, let's go back, and every single person should be building because this is how we're going to build the best products for what the future looks like.
Rinki Sethi joins us now here on the ground in San Francisco. She is the Chief Security and Strategy Officer of Upwind. It's really nice to have you. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
You're here at the conference on the ground at San Francisco, RSAC, representing the firm. What are some of the big themes either you've already seen or you're looking forward to learning more about?
I think everybody is talking about AI, Agentic, and what the future of security is going to look like with this revolution that we're going through. And everybody's talking about what does cloud security look like. Then finally, people are now thinking about what is runtime in our environments, especially with the massive data explosion that AI and Agentic is bringing, and what's the future of cyber going to look like. And so that's a big theme, and I think just hearing people talk about this now has been really interesting.
What are some of the latest priorities and the top things that you're working on with the company?
With Upwind, we're continuing to make sure we nail runtime, which is our bread and butter, continuing to make sure that our CSPM is robust and building out all the AI and agentic security capabilities. We have the entire platform already. We do API security, CNAP, all of it. And so continuing to build in the features and all of the things our customers are asking for faster than anybody else can out there.
Take us inside what those conversations actually look like. What are the big problems that your customers have? And what does that mean? And how does that translate for your work at Upwind?
I think one of the biggest things that's coming up is give me visibility on how my employees are using AI and agents. And then when you think about that, outside of the enterprise, some of the enterprise use cases, most of that happens in cloud. And so people are now saying that, okay, I know Upwind is giving us visibility. Now take it one step further, and how do we build preventative controls and detective controls that can be auto-remediated? So these are things that we're working on that we already have in roadmap, and some we've already delivered on, but staying ahead of the curve on what we know customers are going to expect as people are going fast and furious into enabling AI for their organizations.
You sit at the intersection of security as well as strategy. How is your role evolving as the threats themselves get more complex?
So my role is really interesting at Upwind. I have InfoSec and IT, and then of course I have marketing, which for me, going from a CISO now owning all these other areas, but also being the voice of the customer internally. And so it's an interesting role. And so when I think about the threats, right, and now every organization, even at Upwind, is leveraging agents and AI to do work. And so we are also in the boat on how do we make sure that we're doing that all in a very secure manner because we sit within critical infrastructure, right? And so we've got to make sure that we're staying ahead of the threats internally just as we protect our customers as well.
And what are enterprises most concerned about right now when it comes to things like cloud and runtime security?
I think a lot of companies are either transitioning to cloud, they're already in cloud, or they're all on-prem and then they're figuring out what do we need to do, or they're in some hybrid mode. What everybody's going through is there's this AI agentic revolution that's around the corner, or it's already happening actually. And so how is that affecting my company? And what companies are starting to realize is the way that we used to do cloud security in the cloud complexity that existed then is no longer the way that we can do security today with the cloud complexity today, and with how AI and agents are producing data in like massive production than we can ever imagine. And so the way that we do security has to fundamentally change. And we can't be just looking at alerts and scale humans to tackle this in the way that we used to. So we really need to think about how are we going to handle this amount of data? And the only way you can do it is if you're doing security at runtime. And the reason that's so important is that you will actually catch the attacks and stop them when they actually matter, not just having all this noise in your environment, right? And so I think security has to fundamentally change, and we need a different architecture and look at solutions that are going to solve for cloud complexity now.
So to that point about shift and trying to stay ahead, what are some of the other ways AI is changing the threat landscape? And how are you best advising companies to always evolve ahead of those threats?
Yeah, one is like the attackers are using AI to go and hit companies too. And so we have to use AI to go against that as well. And I think thinking about like how we're just not as we're going to be able to keep up in the old ways of doing things, that in order to stay ahead of the threats and some of the new things that we're seeing. I mean, we're seeing things like even around social engineering, so much more sophisticated and totally 180 shift in how attackers are going about it. Before it was this create this sense of urgency. Now it's like, why? AI is allowing you to do this at scale with low cost. You don't need to do it with a sense of urgency. And so that's going to go into every aspect of security. And so the cloud security market is going to have to evolve in this way too, to stay ahead of the threats. And I think companies need to be thinking about how is cloud security? How do you have visibility around what's happening? Because this is moving faster than I think anyone, we all know it's going fast, but I think the future is going to be even faster than we can imagine.
What differentiates Upwind in an increasingly competitive, more broad cybersecurity ecosystem?
Yeah, I think so. With Upwind, one of the biggest things that we built the product on at the time, I think before anyone understood it, was runtime security. That's where we did amazing. And there were very few companies focused on that at the time. It's the hardest thing to build. And how do you build it in a way that's lightweight, that's not going to break your production environment? This is like the baseline of what everything's built. So we have a fundamentally different architecture at Upwind. Everybody else built from outside in. Like, what can you see on the outside? And now we're going to get deeper in. We started with, nope, we're going to start from the inside, because the inside is where you want to prevent attacks, and then we're going to go outside. So we have what we call an inside-out architecture, and I think it's fundamentally different than how any other cloud security company has been built. And so we built the hard thing first, and now we can build all the capabilities around it.
As we look ahead to the rest of 2026, give us some sense about what is next for you and your colleagues at Upwind. What else should we be on the lookout for?
I think the world is changing around us. I think it's interesting, as a CISO, I will say that like a lot of times we've been talking about leadership and what that means and getting out of the weeds and making sure you're a business partner. We're at an interesting time with AI and agents, and it's like everybody's going back to becoming a builder now, right? And that's going to be really important in how we build in the future. And I think that's what we're doing at Upwind, is like, let's go back, and every single person should be building, because this is how we're going to build the best products for what the future looks like.
Cool. Rinki, thanks a lot for taking the time. It's nice to have you.
Thanks for having me.